from the School of Business and Public Policy at the University of Papua New Guinea. B, the teachers of grade 5 visionary students of Paradise High School and teachers and grade 6 students of Lahara Avenue School. On behalf of the Parliament, I extend to the visitors a warm welcome to Parliament. Petitions, notices. Honourable members, question time. The Honourable Governor for Southern Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. I also want to recognize the students and others who are in the gallery. I see my daughter who is doing grade 5 in Paradise here, Bakita, hello. And thank you for that. My series of questions without notice, Mr. Deputy Speaker or Acting Speaker, is directed to the Minister for National Planning and the Prime Minister and others to take note. This question is on the implementation, the importance on implementation of the development budget for the national government. Mr. Speaker, my series of questions is directed to the Minister for National Planning, Honourable Rainbow Paida, in relation to the national development agenda of this country and the importance of implementation of the national government's development budget. Given our country's concerns in law and order, education, health, and of course infrastructure such as Connect PNG, SME space and other important sectors of our development agenda, it is important that the Minister for Planning, through his department, as the most appropriate agency of government, provide to us leaders and in this Parliament, through Parliament, a quarterly or 6-monthly report on the tracking and performance of our development agenda, so that the people of this country are aware of the government's efforts and utmost best in addressing development agenda of this country. Mr. Speaker, on this note, my first question. Can the good minister assure this House and the people of Papua New Guinea whether or not his department can table this report on the use of development funding to sector priorities in the development budget, so that there is accountability, visibility, track record, and you and I can know on what is happening in our development expenditures in our respective priority sectors under the 2023 development budget. Mr. Speaker, this is my first question. Mr. Deputy Speaker, most of your leaders in this Parliament would agree that this is an important information you and I can relate to our people in our communities, districts and provinces. Mr. Speaker, I know that there is a total appropriation of 9 billion in the 2023 development budget. And I'm also aware, Mr. Speaker, we are in the third quarter of 2023. But for the purpose of clarity, visibility, and many of our critics of government out there who are doubtful, it is important that the people of this country have some visibility on how we as government, as custodians of our people's budget, can account and inform the people where earmarked development funds are expended so far, how each sector is funded, and what programs get funded and so forth. Mr. Speaker, my second question. In the case for Connect PNG, for example, how much development funds has been expended so far? This is a good program. Which roads have been funded? and in what districts, what province. We need to report to this parliament so our people and we as leaders appreciate the intervention of government in this sector. In Southern Highlands, for example, I want to know which roads are funded under Connect PNG. So our people, our district, province has visibility and appreciate government intervention in this important program. This will enable our people, including our leaders, to appreciate the development path under this important Connect PNG policy of the government. My third question, Mr. Speaker. Can the good minister inform Parliament what are our national government intervention program of funding in the law and justice sector? Mr. Speaker, I'm aware this government has intervened with appropriation and expenditures in CIS, for example, in the police, for example, in the judiciary space. It is important we appreciate and table to this honorable parliament and to the people of our country and to parliament so our people and leaders have clear visibility in government intervention in the law and order space and programs. And Mr. Speaker, I can go on. In the education sector, in the health sector, SMEs, government, Marabe Rosso government is intervening. But what are they? Which universities are funded? Which colleges are funded? Which education institutions are funded? In what district? In what province? We must clearly articulate this to Parliament, to you leaders, and to the whole country. In the health sector, in the SME sector. Mr. Speaker, I ask the Minister for Planning, can your department organize and inform the country from now and going into the future, instead of keeping people in suspense and creating a lot of doubts and unnecessary critics out there, and going into the future, these important government intervention programs into sectoral intervention as part of the overall national government strategy to report to Parliament and to the people of this country on the implementation of the national development agenda so that we as leaders and our people can appreciate our government's intervention in our districts, in our provinces, and in the country as a whole. This is the national development agenda implementation of the development budget I'm referring to as the yardstick to transform and change the development agenda and the path of development going forward in this country. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
The Minister of Finance, National Planning.
Mr. Acting Speaker, thank you. I thank our good Governor for Sutherland for raising, I think, 3 important questions. And I'll try my best to ensure I give responses that are best fitting to some of the main issues that is raised as part of his questions. Mr. Acting Speaker, at the back of launching M3P4 and learning from the lessons of trying to implement M3P3, as he said, implementation is a very serious issue. For one, as we all know, and most of us sitting in this room understand, we as national government set the agenda of a 5-year space, and it's up to provincial governments and district governments to work within that space of plan we put together. And the money plan that we put forward, as stated in his statement, is 9 billion. The revised version is actually 6.72 for the development component. Mr. Acting Speaker, when the M3P3 independent review came out, one of the key concerns in that assessment or the report done by an independent team was that implementation was the major issue in getting through the last M3P3. Thus, at the back of that assessment in this M3P4, I'd like to announce by way of this answering this question that in the next few years, the next 5 years going forward as captured in the M3P4, we are going to outsource monitoring and evaluation. And MINOSEM, Mr. Speaker, before you may give money to provincial governments, district governments, Na imi waiting mo lo make him road, na imi salim DRD, imi sarem all agencies, lo government, lo go make him report. Na some of the time, this report them true, some of them report you know true. Na time come back, mi plak sim report, na mi plak table him lo parliament or other forums, or mi plak try him lo give him report. And as such, sometimes reports are credible, sometimes they are not. So this intention of the issue imi looking now in this 5-year plan, imi rouse him, outsource him, meaning that people like KPMG or Deloitte or SMAC or international reputable companies will now assess big programs such as Connect PNG or Big Money Game provinces. We have an independent team assessing and giving us the evaluation of these projects and ensure that we implement. So coming to his series of questions on one, can we table to Parliament a report on this one as soon as our Treasurer ends down the report on the Maya 4? I can assure this House that I will table a very detailed report on how we are spending in terms of national agendas such as law and order, health, education, but at the same time, the level of funding we are giving districts, provinces, so that we are all held accountable to how much we are spending at different levels of our government. So I can assure in the first question, Mr. Acting Speaker, I will table a very detailed report on where we are spending in all these earmarked funding for sectors, sector by sector and district by district, and province by province. So you may say which province kisim, which province in Oksim, which district sim in Oksim. So as stated by our good governor, in the benefit of our people can know that funding has gone to these areas and it's up to relevant agencies or government to take on board and implement those programs, so at district level or at LLG or at provincial and national government. So for question one, I assure through you, Mr. Acting Speaker, and honourable leaders here and the country as a whole, that I will table a very detailed report, and that will come at the back of the launching of the M3 and at the same time our intention as government to set up the National Monitoring Authority. Question number two on Connect PNG, Mr. Acting Speaker. Connect PNG comes under the mandate, the road section that is referring to comes under the mandate of the Works and Highways Department. So I will consult with the relevant minister and the department as to getting a detailed report on tabling in Parliament how we can, the report as to how much we are spending in each province as to Connect PNG and how much we are spending in that sector. From the top of my head, GeoPNG funding is about 450 million. Donor funding is about 300, so total Connect PNG is about 750 million for this year, which is a major policy direction focus for us as a government. Particularly in South Island Province, Mr. Acting Speaker, I'm told roads that remained a very priority for us in government is Gulf South Islands Highway, which is being funded ongoing. I'm told that some of the roads that capture, such as Nipa, the Nipa and Poroma Road, the 4 or 5 contractors that have been awarded, some are slowly picking up work, and Works Department has been paying them based on the work they are doing. And at the same time, tender has gone out for Poroma to Kutubu Road, which has never been done by any other government before. We are treating as priority. And Mendi Nipa Road, those are roads that have been captured in the Connect PNG program. And we are working with the Works Department, which is the implementing agency, so that we can implement those roads. The last thing I want to do is make it look like national planning is the super department that overrides and micromanages also. We're working with agencies who take custody of this program, such as Connect PNG, for them to implement Connect PNG. So I can submit as to date how much we've funded, but I am, to my memory, I'm told half of the funding that we've allocated, so around 350 has already gone to Department of Works for them to implement the old Connect PNG. And for the specifics of Southern Islands, I will work with the Works Minister and the Works Secretary to ensure we get a detailed report on which are the roads under Connect PNG funded in this province, which are ongoing contracts and which are ones we've tendered and the priority for government. The third question, I believe, was on law and order. Mr. Acting Speaker, as you know, Prime Minister yesterday or the day before made a statement and said our government is prioritized in terms of funding, putting money where mouth is in terms of addressing law and order. As such, for police, as you would see, operational budget blow na, PIP budget blow, and close to law, close to 540 or 50 million kina law this year. Big budget through in operation and PIP. But on the sector program, long PIP in a development budget, it's about 250 million for PIP programs for the law and order sector as a whole. So on those reports as well, as I said in relation to the first question, my report, when I table my report, will outline how much we are spending in law and order, how much we are spending in health, education, and all the different sectors that we have. And I think in a variation of the last question was all the other programs as government we are running, are we going to give a quarterly report through you? I can assure this House that when that report comes, we will outline. And I'm told by, I'd like to thank our Treasurer. To date, we are tracking at about half of our PIP budget. And all those monies have been released to agencies of government so far. Mr. Acting Speaker, I'd like to conclude by saying that as traditionally before, where most of funding has been held by agencies like finance or planning, Mr. Speaker, now money belong agriculture, go agriculture. Money belong oil palm, go oil palm. Money belong sip, go department, go sip. Ogaras department, me plus sali money go. So we are just trying to ensure we implement and work with those and not try to override these agencies, but work with them to ensure we implement our budget. So, planning and got big power and no, the PIP has been delegated and same, Mr. Speaker, road blow district member, mipla salim go district. Road blow governor, mipla salim go governor. So suppose road, come up and check him governor. Suppose road, come up, check him member. We are no longer micromanaging programs at national planning or other departments. Connect PNG go law, Department of Works and Highway. Mipla deal want them all national agenda programs. Now all these other different funding, we have sent it to agencies. So if money blow, one plus sector come, please check him or relevant minister and the departments now. We will just liaise with them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I may thank him, Governor of the South Islands, for giving me opportunity to respond to these three questions. Thank you.
Supplementary member for Maprik.
Yeah, thank you, Acting Speaker. Supplementary question from you, along Minister Blong, Finance and Planning. In your report, can you also tell the House, because the country is made up of 4 regions, you have to tell the House how you disperse the money if all the regions are benefit fairly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Minister.
Prime Minister, thank you. Thank you, Member of Maprik Law. This is a supplementary question. Maprik is an integral part of our development plan, same as each region, each province. And we've, in our matrix for regional balance and fairness of distributing those funds and our limited funding in Mr. Capturing PIP, all regions have been captured fairly, I can assure. Take, for example, Mr. Acting Speaker, if you see in the budget for district infrastructure program, for example, Finchavan district infrastructure program, we've allocated 5 million. And also in that same allocation, when you go for ECP, go see Maprik district infrastructure program, it's captured. Budget line by line, you may put him inside the budget. So that goes to show the element of fairness in the budget, where every district is captured, provinces are captured, and regions, if you put together regions, will be captured entirely so. We'll try to give a space inside the report to just show regional balance as to the distribution of budgets, please. So I hope I answer the supplementary question by a good member from Maprik. Thank you.
The Honourable Governor for Central.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to also ask a supplementary question to the Minister for Finance and Planning. It's with regards to his prioritization of the road coming from Southern Highlands into Gulf and, of course, into Central.
Honorable Governor, you're asking your question to Finance Minister. Go ahead.
So 3 times on this floor of Parliament, I have asked about socioeconomic report on this road coming into Central Province, and I have not gotten any response back on that question. So my question to the Minister for Finance and Planning is, how has the government accommodated for the effects of this road connecting into PNG, Port Moresby, the negative impact of it, into Central Province, from Gulf into Central Province? Right now, we are talking about law and order. We're talking about all of the effects of law and order in all parts of the country. And for us in Central Province, we see that as a major possibility of law and order problems happening in our province. And so we are saying, what is the socioeconomic report, if it has been done? If it has been done, how is government planning for that in terms of budget to help us to prepare for that, the negative consequences? Do we have prerequisites that we need to set and tick off before we open that missing link? And if we haven't done that, I want to know, for the minister to let the people of Central Province know, how are you taking care of that? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. I thank our good Governor for Central for raising very important questions. I think it goes to the core of what we as government are trying to do, ensure that we connect the entire country. Mr. Acting Speaker, if most of you would know, in most countries, developed countries, Mr. Acting Speaker, the first infrastructure they built when they took independence was transport systems. If you look at America, you look in Australia, the first thing they did was connect the entire country. That's the first thing they did. And if you go to Australia now, you can drive across Australia. You can drive across most of the most advanced economies that we are living in this world today. Unfortunately, in PNG, it's sad to say we have not done that. So all countries, you look in, countries live in the pockets of their own region, their own space, their own districts. The ambition of Connect PNG was basically, how do we connect Papua New Guinea as a whole country? The issues of, when we raise issues of socio-economical issues like law and order problems, a case in point you could see is Morobe. Morobe is linked to the islands. Yes, yet we've found a way to live together. You can just look at the dynamics of Morobe. When we try to correlate a case in point for, if we connect the road from Gulf, Central Gulf and Morobe, or connecting the whole of Papua region to the New Guinea Islands, a case in point is just typically, you look at Morobe. Morobe is connected by road all the way, the Okuk Highway starts from Lae and ends at, either you can say Tari, or you can say Koropakopiago, or you can say Pogera. So those two road junctions will show you, just to show a case in point. For this road in particular, one, we have 2 roads running that will connect. One is the Gulf Southern Lands Highway. The other one is the road our good governor is referring to, which will basically link through Morobe, Central, and Kamlimil or Moresby. Department of Works has done several studies to do with economic corridor studies. And I will get those reports done by Department of Works. Those programs have been running for about 10 years now. It's as an ongoing initiative by former governments to include those missing links. So those studies I will produce and give to, through my office to the Governor for Central for the benefit of assessing those reports done independently by Department of Works, the economic corridor, missing link concepts and the studies done by DOW. But on a point, Mr. Speaker, question come back to Yumi. Issues of law and order, and issues don't go away until Yumi go 11. Law and order, but still got problem no country blaming. Anywhere around the world, there will be issues of law and order. But do we allow those issues to not stop us from connecting the entire country, which is something that we must do before you may go 50 or after 50 years or 60 years? When do we connect the entire country? Me like Pinis by Togo, Mr. Acting Speaker. Take for example, Finsaven Mibla stab outside yet, Mibla no connect one time, lay yet. So close to lay, we are living so far. And one basic question is, Mibla got a member on the governor's staff asking. When you don't connect the road, law and order issue, how about police go? Police pa about damas kilometer go inside. So when we want to send police officers, it's very hard because they'll have to get chopper and go. Chopper costs them high through. So creating connectivity also reduces issues of law and order. So in a major scale, how will it affect that? I think those studies are done by Works Department and a team from planning, a few other agencies, and I will produce the reports for governor or any other governor that feels that this will be an issue for us when we are trying to go on the path of connecting our whole country. So Amitok, thank you, Lord Governor. You ask him, and I assure that I will bring those reports to your office for the benefit of our people in Central. Thank you.
The honourable member for Vanimo Green.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. Mr. Acting Speaker, me like kisim this lot time long, ask him a series of questions. He got the Prime Minister. Questions from me, in relation to free power supply from Indonesia, from Jayapura in Indonesia. Mr. Speaker, as I'm standing here speaking, in the last 3 days, Indonesia has been putting up power pylons in my Wutun village on the border of Indonesia and Papua New Guinea. Mr. Acting Speaker, provision of power or electricity, provision of water supply and telecommunications is the sovereign responsibility and obligation by an independent state of any country. We as a government are responsible to provide those essential services. These essential services are actually economic enablers of our country. We have placed so much emphasis on Connect PNG, but we have not placed emphasis on power supply, water supply, and telecommunication in our country. Mr. Acting Speaker, I have stood here many times and I have been vocal on the issue of sovereignty and national security. I have raised concerns about Indonesian encroaching into our territorial waters and our land boundaries. I have raised issue about Indonesia building naval base in our territorial waters at the mouth of River Torasi in Western Province. I have raised issue about Indonesia building infrastructure and military base in River Tami and all the way to Wutong village. We as a government have not addressed those issues. And now we have gone and made agreement with Indonesia to supply free power to the people of Wutong. Mr. Acting Speaker, by this decision, this government has compromised our sovereignty and our national security. By this decision. And the worst, Mr. Speaker, we have allowed free power to be supplied to the people of Wutong. At what?
Honourable member, we have a point of order.
Just to put things in perspective, PNG Power and even the government has not reached any agreement whatsoever on any power deal. There is just a proposal that's on the table. There are so many issues, international, many issues that are yet to be resolved. So we have not agreed yet, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Minister, your point of order is in order, but I will ask the Honourable member to continue on from the question he asked. It's the Prime Minister who will respond. And if it's the case that you have answered, the Prime Minister can respond on that. Honourable member of Vanimo Green, I would ask you to Make your statement short and go straight to your question.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. Mr. Acting Speaker, at what cost? At what cost have we as a country allowed another country to come and provide a service that we are supposed to provide to our people? We have allowed them to encroach into our land borders. We have allowed them to build infrastructure in our territorial waters. We have done nothing about it. And now we have gone and begged them to supply power to us, which is our sovereign obligation. And Mr. Speaker, for me, this is an unimaginable decision and a very sensitive decision. My questions, therefore, are, who gave approval for Indonesia to supply power to Wutung border? Who gave the approval? I want the Prime Minister to tell this House. Secondly, where the sovereignty and the national security issues and their implications and ramifications considered prior to making this decision? Thirdly, why wasn't I, as the local MP, where this electorate comes under my jurisdiction, and my office and my District Development Authority Board, not consulted in the discussions to engage or to allow Indonesia to supply power? Why wasn't I involved in these discussions? I would have given a better advice to the government on the implications of sovereignty and national security issues. What if the Indonesians encroach and we raise issue? Tomorrow they'll shut down the power for us. And Mr. Speaker, my fourth question, have we just sold our land, our people, and our country to another government? Mr. Speaker, by this action, are we admitting to our people and to the global community that we are incapable, and I say we are incapable of providing essential services to our people? Mr. Speaker, I have spent 1.9 million to do a complete costing of a mini hydro. Complete costing of a mini hydro, 1.9 million from my DSIP. And it will cost about 40 million kina, less than 50 million, to produce 3.3 to 5 megawatts of power. And by assessment, that's enough power to supply provincial headquarters, Vanimo, all the way to Wutung border. I'm not asking for much. I've submitted all these proposals to national planning 2 years ago. I understand that there has been 40 million allocated and nothing has come to my district. Why can't the national government just give that 40 million, allow me to build that mini hydro, so I will kill two birds with one stone? Provide electricity and water supply to my people.
Honorable Governor, we have a point of order. Honorable Member for Vanimo Green, we have a point of order. Honorable Minister, what's your point of order?
Mr. Acting Speaker, the session that we budgeted 40 million for a specific hydro project in Vanimo is not true and should not be on record. I'm not aware of a budget allocation that we set aside 40 million and we did not fund that particular project, so just wanted to correct that, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Member, Honorable Minister, your point of order is in order. I'll ask the Honorable Member, we already have run out on time on...
Mr. Acting Speaker.
You will need a good reply from the Prime Minister, so
yes,
Mr.
Acting Speaker, the good National Planning Minister must check his records that there is money from European Union earmarked 40 million. Go and check your records if my reading is not right. But Mr. Acting Speaker, what I'm basically saying is that we can provide these essential services ourselves. And Mr. Deputy Speaker, my two last questions is that I will ask the Prime Minister to immediately withdraw power supply to Wutong. We cannot allow another country to come in and encroach into our territory and supply the services that we are supposed to supply for our people. Mr. Speaker, I am prepared. If we stop power supply to Wutong, I am prepared to lose my political support in Wutong over my sovereignty and over my dead body. Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker.
The Honourable Prime Minister.
All right, thank you, Acting Speaker. Like appreciate him question Kamlo, member Blo Yumilong Wanimo Green. Pass them through me like Toggle Sam sovereignty block country in honor giveaway suppose me access him partnership services from one pla or not pla country. The Indonesian Indonesia as a country is right next door to us, and for so long we have not been seeing them as an economic partner. We've been seeing them from the prism of politics and government-to-government relations only. I want to inform the House, the leader did ask some series of important national interest questions so that his constituent, as well as those who are living in the border area between us and the Indonesian border, are able to know exactly what is happening in between us. And I want to give assurance to the member and for our people in Wanima Green and our people also in North Fly, Middle Fly, South Fly, who live in the border areas, that our sovereignty issues and our border issues will not be compromised. Our national interests will be protected. In fact, this proposal put on the table is within the context of national interests. And what am I saying here in terms of national interest? At the moment as we speak, 47 going 48 years now, soon to be 48 years old as a country, we do not have as yet reliable power services, reliable infrastructure in all parts of our country, let alone Wanimo or Daru or the border areas as I speak. The border areas sadly have remained one of the enclaves or part of our country that is totally vacuum in terms of services that our people so deserve. I don't know when was the last time many of us visit those border areas. I had a privilege of flying in and around these border areas last Christmas and some of my early electoral visits throughout our country. I am heartbroken to know that they still remain way behind. And it is unfair on us to keep them locked in those enclaves of poverty, absent of goods and services forever. And let me give assurance to the people in our border areas, to our country, and to the good member for Wanima Green, that our national interest is not compromised in the endeavor of finding development and services there. It will never be compromised also going forward. It will be done within the context of our public policy and within the context of our nation's constitution and the enabling legislations that govern our operations. Directly linking to the concept of power being supplied from the other side, Mr. Acting Speaker, I just want to impress. The conversation, the concept is being discussed seriously. We have not penned an agreement as yet, but we are looking into this possibility very, very seriously to give cheap, reliable power 24 hours a day to Wanimo town at the very earliest or to Daru town at the very earliest. Every development endeavors cost money. Today, Wanimo, Daru, Tari, almost 70%, if not 80% of all major provincial centers are cost centers in as far as PNG Power's ability to supply reliable power to these important provincial headquarters and key district sites right throughout our country. Simply put, as absent of sustainable, low-priced, and by government policy, clean energy in those areas. And so the other side of the border, they have cheap power readily available to be accessed. And for us, conversely, going down the line into the future, the massive hydro potentials we have in our country, including the proposal for hydro in Vanuatu district and other parts of our country, the generation capacity we have here is even bigger than what's on the other side. And so the public said public infrastructure between our two borders are being looked at very seriously within the confines of the sovereign border we have today. So said infrastructure use, said space use for commerce, business, trade, and people-to-people movement, so that we eliminate dark spots in the border area, we eliminate people still living in poverty, we eliminate migration of foreigners or migration of people we can't account for properly, who hide under the cover of border crossers and move in and out of these spaces. We want to really lift the border areas in terms of modern services at the very earliest. And so to find immediate temporary solution for power, for instance, Meraque's power, they run power 24 hours a day in Meraque. Jayapura has power. We had a look at this proposal to run power lines between Jayapura and Vanuatu, and we could access cheap power temporarily until that hydro comes into play, or until we have generation space in power ourselves, and we could bring back and power our own city and our own towns. Mind you, Mr. Acting Speaker, Vanuatu is a very, very strategic place. I appreciate the member's concern that it must have stepped up national interest and security in that place. That power conversation is a temporary conversation. And if we have access to cheap power, we're looking at right now, to give you context, Mr. Acting Speaker, Vanuatu power today possibly costs in excess of over 1 kina a kilowatt hour. The conversation is we're looking at accessing power on the other side at less than a kina an hour, much, much cheaper. In fact, that current conversation indicates almost 70% reduction to the cost of what would have been over a kina an hour kilowatt in Vanuatu town. So accessing low-priced power for our people in Vanuatu, complementing our intention to drive Vanuatu free trade zone, putting all forest product back into Vanuatu for processing to downstream processing, they have readily surplus power on the other side that we're thinking of accessing, but within the context of what is beneficial to us without compromising our national interests. At the moment, this line of thought is in draft stage, but when we have been talking for the last 48 years, just a slight conversation on this one, our friends from Indonesia, at their own cost, with no money from us, have moved miles to put power now right all the way to Wutung, and the possibility of giving power to us at 18 toya, 19 toya, 20 toya. Far reduction from over 1 kina we're paying. The other day, Mr. Acting Speaker, we had an issue that Governor Baird did indicate that Wewak town is on a shutdown. That is the same story. Tari town is on a shutdown. Many of the power on and off because of the fact that cost of diesel is high, reliability of diesel supply every now and then, and people in the centers do not have enough supply or customer base to ensure money is put back into power generation in those centers. In Vanuatu right now, there's an indication of a low-priced power supply that we can source whilst we work on the hydro proposals, whilst we work on other internally ramped-up power generation that could deliver better price power and reliable power to our people at the very earliest. Vanuatu, to complement our focus on bringing timber downstream into that space to prepare, process, and export, we're targeting low-cost power, and I will be very much pleased to look at a proposal that a member has said is submitted into National Planning Department to see at the very earliest how we could bring that hydro proposal into generating our own power, and we could make redundant the plan to buy cheap power from our friends on the other side. I want to assure the good member, it will never compromise our national interest. Our national interest is protected in the same cost. That's similar to Mr. Acting Speaker. If you look at today, Singapore receives its water supply from Malaysia. Our nation next door supplies water supply to Singapore. I've been supplying for the last 60 years. They share infrastructure. They share services together. Nation living side by side. within the context of a win-win. They work to ensure that they support each other. Today you go on the other side of the border, it is growing. Sadly, the last 48 years, we have not grown on our side of the border. Do we keep them locked like this? We have to find solutions. Whilst national government makes intervention for our contribution to get our people up and running, if there is an immediate solution and things like cheap power, if it can be readily accessed from the other side, we're looking into those MOUs to ensure we don't compromise our national interests, but we secure the services, whilst at the same time, Mr. Acting Speaker, it hasn't taken place yet, but I just want to put to members of parliament, our hydros can generate clean source of power, and in time we could reverse the supply back to the 300 million people on the other side. That can happen. So buying power from them or us selling power to them into future is very much a good proposition that awaits to be tapped into, just like we're supplying our LNG for energy to other parts of the country. We could be generating power from one hydros and selling back to Jayapura, Merakwe, or far north Queensland as we move into time. But that's another space, another conversation. I want to assure this House, nothing sinister, nothing funny, all in the interest of finding cheaper, reliable power at the very earliest. This conversation is developing, and MOU is being looked at. The member for Vanimo will be involved in this, and so he will have his opportunity to also contribute into this space. But I want to also indicate another bigger issue, a border treaty between Indonesia and Papua New Guinea, Western Provincial Government, and West Sepik, and our Foreign Affairs will be engaged in this work to look at how do we step up our border relations. Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Nipa Kutubu.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. My question without notice goes to the minister, the new Minister for Labour and Employment.
Yeah. Ask him, ma'am. Well done. Congratulations.
Firstly, Mr. Acting Speaker, let me congratulate the honourable member and the people of Rye Coast and a party, the People's First Party, yes, for the elevation to ministry. I would also like to congratulate the Marabe Rosso government to bridge the gap on the question of gender equality in cabinet. My first question is that in the face of the unemployment crisis that we have in our country, I say an unemployment crisis because we have seen that 27,000 people, young people, have lined up at a hotel for 28 positions. We have seen 5,000 young men and women applied to join the police force for a space of 500. As a leaders, I think that we should accept that there is a real crisis for jobs in our country. I would like to ask, what is her strategy to deal with this? I know it is not fair for her, she just came in, but that is the question that I'm asking. The second question relates to some of our people in our country are complaining that jobs that our people can do are being taken over by foreigners. That is an urgent matter that I think that he should look into, and if that is a strategy that he's working on. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister for Labour and Employment.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. First, on behalf of the people of Rye Coast, as well as the 6 million women and girls of Papua New Guinea, I want to thank our Prime Minister, the Honourable James Marape, and the Marape Rosso government for appointing me as a minister in his cabinet. On that note, Mr. Acting Speaker, we need more women in Parliament. 2 is not enough. Now on to the question asked by the member for Nipakutubu. I took office for 3 weeks now, but as you may have seen in the media, I've issued some statement around the very things that he's just mentioned. And from the outset, I want to place on record that the Marape Rosso government is very much aware of the challenging times we are going through today as we deal with high inflation, low formal sector employment, the skills gap, as well as the vulnerabilities and the risks faced by majority of our people who are in the informal sector. So as you may be aware, Mr. Speaker, recently the government has launched the medium-term development plan 4, and under the MTDP 4, the government has an ambitious but achievable plan of creating 1 million jobs by 2027. And the plan actually goes into in detail, where those jobs in its sectors will come from. So my job as the Minister for Labor and Employment is to come up with strategies to enable the private sector who actually drive employment. The government does not provide enough employment. So far, I have undertaken some work, and the strategies that we will be looking at first and foremost is to review and amend our aging laws, our labor laws, which my department is in charge of. There are 22 of them, and 7 statutory offices that come under my department, and the laws are updated. So we will be looking at amending the labor laws. We will be looking at, for instance, the minimum wage currently at $3.50. We are also aware of the very big data gap. In order to make informed decision making and in order to have better policies, we need data. And one thing I was just shocked is that we lack a lot of data in a lot of the areas in our country. So labor data gap and how we can improve the labor market, that's one of the areas that I am looking at. And first and foremost, to also look at our policies again and have them aligned to the MTDP4 and what the current government wants to achieve out of the MTDP4. And some of those areas include like access to employment, fair employment conditions, protection of workers, and especially in strengthening our government's dialogue and relationship with the private sector, where we can employ our labor market conditions. So in terms of the question that he asked about the employment crisis, yes, currently we have an employment crisis because our economy is not big enough to accommodate and provide employment opportunities to majority, a lot of our young people coming out of the schools. There is also the labor gap. So in terms of the employment crisis, we have MTDP4 that has outlined the areas where those jobs can be created. And the government, like the Connect PNG program, the investments that are in education that will address the skills gap, that will connect our areas in PNG so we can create, so the private sector can drive the employment creation. On the question of like, sorry, the second question he asked, can he, Mr. Acting Speaker, can he ask again because I haven't written it down.
Honourable Minister, I can ask the Honourable Member if you can repeat your second question for the benefit of the Minister so that she can respond. Minister, you resume your seat as the member asked.
Okay, thank you, Acting Speaker. My second question was on the issue of job security, where jobs that our people, Papua New Guineans, can actually do are being taken over by foreigners. Job protection for our people.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. our Prime Minister has made a public announcement that currently there are about 41,000 jobs in the country that are in the hands of the foreigners. And one of my jobs is to ensure that 10,000 of that comes back to Papua New Guineans. And you know, that's a big call, and I've already tasked my department secretary to put together a committee to look into that. But I want to assure this House and Papua New Guineans that the Marape Rosso government is very keen on taking back jobs in the hands of the foreigners and giving back to Papua New Guineans. So sem topisin ba mitoko sem Mr. Acting Speaker something lo PNG must come back lo PNG. And jobs that are meant for Papua New Guineans must come back to Papua New Guineans. So I have already started dialogue with the extractive industry, especially with Total Energy, to have a national workshop, actually a nationalization of the workforce in the national content plan. And all of this will be delivered in my ministerial statement in the coming days. But I want to thank the member for NK for his question, and thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For the handset benefit, Honorable Minister, we would withdraw the statement by naming the electorate NK and said Nipa Kutubu.
Acting Speaker, I withdraw the statement NK and I confirm that the electorate is Nipa Kutubu.
Thank you. All members, question time have lapsed. Prime Minister. Honorable Prime Minister, we have a point of order from member for Yalibu Pangia.
What supplementary question relating to the same question? Can I ask that before the Prime Minister takes the honor of making this presentation?
Time lapse. Asking tomorrow.
Honorable member for Yalibu Pangia, thank you. I think our time have already lapsed. I can recognize you tomorrow to ask that question. The Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as Mr. Acting Speaker, patient to state it, I present the annual reports of the Mineral Resource Development Corporation for the years 2019 and 2020.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Acting Speaker asks Liver Parliament to make a statement in connection with the reports.
Is the leave granted? Prime Minister, make your speech.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to table the financial accounts of the Mineral Resource Development Company, or in short MRDC, to make a statement to this Honorable House on the operations of one of our most successful state-managed companies, public managed companies in the country, on behalf of many, many landowners we have right throughout the length and breadth of our country who come under the management of MRDC. Let me start with a brief history of the company. Mr. Speaker, MRDC was founded by the late Grand Chief in May of 1975. Several months before our nation's independence in 16 September 1975. The Grand Chief initially intended for the company to conduct explorations for mineral reserves in Papua New Guinea, especially in the Star Mountains of Western Province. In the event of discovery, the company was to seek a partner to extract and export the minerals to raise revenue for the government to help fund the nation's development agenda. It was a noble intention by the Grand Chief, as the nation's vast mineral and oil and gas potential was already known to the world then. However, over the years, the policy mandate of the company changed. MRDC became the nominee for state participation in the development of mineral and petroleum resources in the country, the company was to hold a certain percentage of equity in the mineral and petroleum projects on behalf of the state. This included the interest of project area landowners. In 1996, the Parliament passed the Mineral Resource Development Company Pty Ltd Privatization Act. Subsequently, the Chain Habita government launched Oregon Minerals Limited. It was listed on the Australian Stock Exchange with 49% of its shares offered to the public through an IPO. The state's interest in various projects included the Pogra Gold Mine, the Kutubu Petroleum Project, and the Mishima Mine were all transferred to Oregon Minerals Limited. MRDC did retain 51% of the then listed company. The Oregon story, however, sadly, lasted only 6 years, unfortunately. Mr. Speaker, in 2002, as many of you are aware or would be aware or must be told, through a policy of the then Morata government, Oregon Minerals merged with the infamous Oil Sets Limited. Oil Sets took over all of state's interest in the various resource projects. MRDC's 51% stake in Oregon Minerals was transferred to Oil Sets Limited as a result of the merger. MRDC was left with only the participating interest of project area landowners to manage. MRDC's role was then as the sole trustee manager of the landowner trust in the petroleum sector was consolidated in law when the Oil and Gas Act was passed in Parliament in 1998 rather. Under the Act, MRDC became the nominated trustee shareholder of the Corporate Trustees of Landowner Resource Trust, which holds the participating interest and benefit derived from petroleum projects for and on behalf of the project area landowners. For the mining sector, MRDC's relationship with its subsidiary is through a contract agreement.
Hello, I'm Tracy Pa with the Midday News. Cocoa production in Nawab district is set to gain momentum with new planting of hybrid clone varieties. The initiative taken by Nawab district lead consulting team, Allied Sustainable Agribusiness, a subsidiary of Allied PNG Crop, will see more than first 1,000 hybrid clone cocoa seedlings to be planted at Ward 17, Ahi Rural LLG near Bomayong. The first purchased clone hybrid seedlings have been planted and agri scientists engaged to oversee the project. Jackson B and PP Yagamindi brought together the first seedlings to the project site for planting. Mr. B said the cocoa project located at Bombi would provide available seedlings for farmers in the district to obtain later. Production at an international rate. Cocoa Board PNG Lay District Extension Officer Langawi Timos said the project is the first major cocoa farm to be established in Lay under her watch. She said there are 18 varieties of the new clone breed of cocoa seedlings planted in Bombi. Timos said these varieties are pest-resistant and can be harvested in less than 2 years. Bombi principal landowner John Omba is particularly pleased that local youths are involved.
Bili posisla now project am kame first in kind lo nito line lo Route 17 lo ILLG. Msta project all gimen misa o member ni bili po member helping planting all youths inside the community na all mama papa lo side the school fee all youths do around nothing stop and slow putting it come at least can come all in sample lili walk inside lo project na baga lili one kina lo pocket so down in sample passing the crime inside the community. Dikta believe domi misao sisla project em kam setem basenis community lo kain ken road. Ami to thank you through lo. Alait do bring us the opportunity underneath do.
The Royal Papua New Guinea Constabulary, with the support of the government, is repositioning police personnel and assessed to take a harder stand against violent offenders and domestic terrorists. Commissioner of Police David Manning said an important component of this direction includes further empowering provincial police commands to engage with provincial administration to respond to local crime problems. Manning said legislation is being developed that clearly articulates actions of domestic terrorism, and the changes in the police force counter-terrorism approach will be reflected in this policy development. He added that the soft glove approach as the frontline policy are off. The frontline is the confrontation and neutralization of criminal activity at these roots. For example, if a criminal uses a weapon to threaten a village or urban community, that is domestic terrorism, and there is no leniency from police. In regional news, the first statue of a woman in the TVWAN history of Australian War Memorial has been unveiled in camera. It depicts Australia Army nurse Vivian Bullwinkle, but it might never have come into being without a campaign and fundraising effort by Australian College of Nursing.
A rainbow breaks through the clouds as a hero breaks through the bronze ceiling. Lieutenant Colonel Vivian Bullwinkle was the sole survivor of 22 nurses brutally machine-gunned on Banker Island by Japanese forces in 1942. A champion of the nursing profession, Bullwinkle was also the first woman on the Council of the War Memorial, yet nurses needed to ask for her statue.
I think it's an indictment of how women and nurses are valued in society. I have to ask for so much. I have to ask for a seat at the table.
Vivian Bullwinkle rose above adversity. Now at 3 meters high, everyone looks up to her.
81 years, and finally it's taken us that long to have a named statue of a woman.
Just 4 people have been put on a pedestal in the grounds of the War Memorial. Bullwinkle joins Simpson, Dunlop and Monash. Though not named, this digger and his dog came 8 years before a nurse and her fallen comrades.
Vivian and many women should have been recognised much earlier than now, and in many ways throughout our country.
The statue was asked for and also paid for by nurses. The college raised $500,000 to commission the work. From Boeing to bake sales, funds came from corporate and private donations, but not from the memorial's $500 million redevelopment fund.
It looks like a lot of money that the War Memorial has received, but when you look at equivalents now under construction, it's actually not so big.
The memorial says it's developing how it will depict the service of women in its new Iraq and Afghanistan galleries, due to open in 2028.
A former childcare worker now facing more than 1,600 charges of child sex abuse worked at a centre linked to a tertiary education facility in Brisbane. It is also known that he was an avid photographer. The allegations comes as anger grows over the failure of government to introduce child safety principles recommended by the Royal Commission into Abuse.
Sent chills down the spine of every parent.
Deeply shocking and distressing to think of so many children.
I don't think there's a single person in Queensland who aren't sick to their stomachs.
91 girls under 10 allegedly abused in total more than 1,600 times by a childcare worker who's supposed to keep them safe. He is alleged by police to have posted vile images, including child rapes, on the dark web. 23 of the sex abuse alleged victims were in a single Sydney childcare centre.
My government stands with these victims and their families and offers our full support for what is every parent's worst nightmare.
New South Wales has implemented the child safety principles recommended as part of the Royal Commission into child sexual abuse. So has Victoria, but Queensland has only signed on in principle, that is all.
They should have. And the Premier and the Minister owe it to the victims and the young kids and their families an explanation.
These are children's lives. So many kids who've been sexually assaulted finish up taking their own lives.
The accused man, a 45-year-old avid photographer from the Gold Coast, had a blue card. Police confirming he'd passed all the safety checks to work with children. The case has prompted calls for an audit of all childcare centres.
I imagine it'd be very worrying for parents dropping their kids off and wondering what's happening to their children.
Queensland's Attorney-General says an urgent investigation into the accused man's credentials to work with kids found no red flags. She maintains the blue card system is one of the most stringent in the country. New South Wales, however, wants better sharing of information between states, a move backed by Queensland.
Reports like this force us as a community to reflect hard on how these things can happen.
The alleged victims have all been identified and offered counselling.
A family from northeastern Victoria is about to embark on a journey of a lifetime. Angel Coldplay has cerebral palsy, and along with his mom and dad and his pony Pippin, is about to ride the land of Australia's east coast and raise some serious money for charity along the way.
13-year-old Angel Cropley has cerebral palsy. He first started horse riding about 4 years ago, but says it took some getting used to.
I remember when I began riding, I was screaming like I was horrified.
Soon he'll leave his Beechworth home along with his mother and stepfather to begin a 12-month trek along the Great National Trail, stretching from Cooktown in far north Queensland to Healesville in Victoria's Yarra Valley.
It's been a huge undertaking. It's been so much organisation and so many logistical things that I had never ever thought of.
3 people, 1 dog and 4 horses will set off, including Angel's horse, Pippin.
Hello, Pippin. He loves apples and carrots.
Pippin just carries Angel and gear and allows us all the freedom to go and explore Australia.
The family is saddling up and preparing for challenges on the way, like unpredictable weather, equine misadventure and camping in the wilderness. But they say it's all worthwhile. They'll be raising money for the Riding for the Disabled Association, which runs programs to help people with a disability ride.
We see people really improve in all aspects of life, but freedom gets mentioned a lot and feeling free.
I think it would be a great thing for more people to look into and to be supported to do. I think it's very much underrated therapy.
A journey that once would have seemed impossible.
In sports, the Port Moresby Corporate Volleyball competition is a few weeks away with the grand final as a handful of teams keep their finals hope alive. Matches are set for another round of heated after this Sunday, 6th August. The private sector teams look promising to claim the corporate volleyball title, while teams representing government departments will want to topple them as they make their presence known through their good sets of play. A few teams will be eliminated in the Sunday games as hopes of winning are being kept alive. Teams have been sorted in bowls, plate and cup categories, with teams winning Sunday's match continue the final rounds. In the Women's Cup category, powerhouse teams, National Parliament face Kinabank in a match that should go down to the final 5 sets. The Parliament side is dominated by experienced hands but should not underestimate a star-studded Kinabank lineup who will field seasonal players. The team that plays safe should come home. For now, it's nobody's game. Teams are prepared to come out victorious. In the Hada Cup final playoff, PNG Customs will play Credit Corp, also an entertaining match not to miss. Credit Corp will have their young hitters lead the attacking line. The Rostock Cup mountain bike race will be on this weekend in Lae. The Lae City Authority has outlined that road conditions will change over Saturday, August 5th and Sunday, August 6th. This year, the committee has changed the track in an attempt to minimize traffic congestion. Residents should expect roadblocks from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturday and 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Sunday. Roadblocks should be expected at Midford Evan Road between Brownwarra, Bonity Gardens and Scott Hall, Markham Road between Main Brownwarra Roundabout and Golf Club Roundabout. Church Street will be blocked both days. Marshals and police will be stationed at each block. Australia fell 49 rounds short of England in its chase on the last day of the final test of the Ashes this week, with a 2-2 draw good enough for Australia to return the urine.
Great day to be an England fan here at the Oval in London. The hosts managed to win the final test of the Ashes by 49 runs. And when this match was called for England, you should have heard this stadium. It absolutely erupted. But as you talk to the fans who are coming out of these gates, certainly England is very happy about winning this test, but there's a lot of smug Aussies as well who know that they are holding on to the Ashes urn.
Oh, disappointing, but yeah, England played the better cricket that match in the last couple of tests. But yeah, 2-2 is probably a fair result. But we're happy to have the Ashes.
Would have been nice to win the series, but England probably had the upper hand.
Means nothing to retention.
How about yourself?
Yeah, in a couple of years.
I think we were the better team over the series. Thanks to Oz for coming down. A little bit of rain helped us. But yeah, love you Aussies.
Pub, mate. Fair result though. Good series.
Let's see how things go in 18 months' time, shall we?
Rain suspended play after lunch, and the tourists needed to dig deep to claim what would have been the first series win in England since 2001. The final wicket was taken by retiring English veteran Stuart Broad in what was described as a star finish to his career. But it wasn't to be for Australia, with the visitors losing 4 wickets for 11 runs during a catastrophic 19-ball collapse. Now, England fans here have already put the Aussies on notice for next time.
And that's it for sports. Thanks for your company. Join us at 6 for more.
And the esteemed leaders, the preliminary report on the various activities undertaken by the Special Parliamentary Committee on Health Matters. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister, Honourable James Marape, in his address on the 9th August 2022, as the 8th Prime Minister of the 11th Parliament, said in his speech, and I quote, "The lives of our people will not be compromised. We will give you top priority. The greatest gift to our people as we celebrate 50 years will be to improve our health system. By 2025, we do not want Papua New Guineans to go overseas to look for health services. We worked hard to establish and invest into building the Port Moresby Heart Facility. Major demands for the tertiary healthcare are in heart, kidney and all forms of cancer. We must respond to this demand. We must be able to do open heart patient care, dialysis and transplant in our facilities, complemented by highly trained professionals, of course. Mr. Speaker, the Special Parliamentary Committee on Health Matters was established by Parliament on January 19 this year, and committee members sworn in on the 20th January this year. The committee members include the Honourable Freddie Komai, Member for Talasia, who is the Deputy Chairman, the Honourable Jacob Maki, Member for Mulbaya, the Honourable Ricky Morris, Member for Alatau, Member for Honourable Lawyer Boy Samuel, Member for Moresby Northwest, the Honourable Father Francis Domarino, the Member for Central Bougainville, and myself as the Chairman. We commend the Marape-Rosso government for the establishment of this committee, the first since independence. The committee is supported by the Parliamentary Committee, the staff of the Parliament. And we thank the Parliament Clerk for funding support that has made this report possible. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the establishment of committee demonstrates the government's commitment to promoting health and well-being of the country's population. By establishing a dedicated committee focused specifically on health-related issues, the government aims to address some of the critical challenges currently faced by the country's healthcare system.
The committee recognizes the significant challenges facing the healthcare system in PNG, and the government's role in addressing these challenges cannot be overstated. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the visits by the members of committee were an excellent opportunity for them to experience firsthand the provision of healthcare services in NCD and the province's rural settings, and appreciate different levels of health facilities available to our population. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the committee noted that the delivery of frontline primary healthcare and specialized services remains a challenge, with issues ranging from functionality and capacity of rural health posts and health centers, including addressing acute shortage of different cadres of health professionals, revamping the medical supply system, and increasing response and management of disease outbreaks like the COVID-19 pandemic. PNG still has much to do to meet its international obligations towards the healthcare, especially the Sustainable Development Goals number 3 that talks about health and well-being for all. Mr. Assistant Speaker, according to a report from Rural Primary Health Service Delivery under a project under ADB, the health status of people of PNG has deteriorated over the past 2 decades due to severe neglect of the health system, especially the rural areas where 87% live. An estimated 40% of the rural health facilities have closed or are not fully functioning. Limited resources, deteriorating infrastructure, poorly trained and lack of appropriate manpower in the health sector, and inadequate and declining access to basic health services are among reasons for the decline, unquote. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the statement with the attached report and recommendations describes briefly our visits and meetings the committee has undertaken over the past 4 months of this year. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the committee visited Gary Hospital and PMGH, or Port Moresby General Hospital, on 2nd February 2023 and did site inspections of the heart and cancer facilities. The committee also visited the PMGH on Thursday, 2nd February, and did site inspection of the cancer and heart facilities, after which the committee had a brief meeting with CEO and his executive management at PMGH. On the 3rd February 2023, the committee met with the SCMs, or Senior Management Team, from NDOH, NCD PHA, and the Port Moresby General Hospital at the State Function Room. It was noted that this was the first ever meeting to have with the NDOH, NCD PHA, and the PMGH management team together in one venue discussing health issues in NCD. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the committee visited East Pacific Province on the 22nd and 26th of May this year. On 23rd May, the committee had a meeting with the East Pacific PHA chairman, CEO, the management team, and the deputy provincial administrator of the province. The committee later took a tour of the new Boram Specialist Hospital. The committee traveled to Maprik District on the 24th of May. Along the way, visited the Level 1 health facility at Hulia Outpost, Yanguru District, Yanguru South District, visited Maprik District Hospital, and on its return to Wewak, visited Level 2 Naramko Community Health Post, Maprik District, along the Civic Highway, and to Ambudi Trakikat District on May 25th of this year. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the committee visited Eastern Highlands Province on the 2nd and 3rd of June 2023, during which we met with the Governor, Honorable Simon Sia, the PHA team, and Medical Research Institute. The committee did a visit to facility 2 of the Goroka Provincial Hospital, new hospital wing, and on the 3rd of June, the committee visited urban clinics in Goroka Town and the Asaro Health Center. Limitations. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the committee is concerned about the lack of response by the Department of Health towards work of the Special Parliamentary Committee on Health Matters. It was concerning that the committee received very little response from the department to our requests. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the committee notes that the core challenges, especially election petitions, have significantly impeded the performance of members of the Parliamentary Committee and ultimately hindering the overall functioning of the committee. Mr. Assistant Speaker, funding support requested by the committee to the Treasury has not been released to date. The funding delay has adversely affected the committee's ability to efficiently carry out our vital duties and responsibilities. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the committee, upon visiting the Gary Hospital, gave directive to Department of Health for compulsory facility survey and accreditation for Gary Hospital and other health facilities within NCD. We confirm receiving the survey report of Gary Hospital on Tuesday, 13th June this year, which we will make available copies to NCD Governor and the local members of Parliament. But in general, all ratings under the accreditation criteria, that's leadership and management, patient care, management information system, human resource, environment, and general commitment to improving the services provided are all below 60% or performing well below the expected level as a provincial hospital. The committee urged NGOH and NCD to attend to these matters raised in the accreditation report as a matter of priority. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the committee observations and assessment on NCD PHA. There are no governance boards in place, Mr. Speaker, and there are 26 urban clinics distributed within the 3 electorates of NCD. 10 are government-run facilities and 16 are non-government-run facilities. So they're only looking after 10 facilities under the PHA of NCD. Mr. Speaker, we know there are 574 positions filled from the 588. We note specifically the 22 medical officers that are attached with NCD PHA. It is obvious, Mr. Speaker, that the skilled manpower is not fully utilized at Gyorayu Hospital and NCD. There are 22 specialist medical officers at NCD PHA who are underutilized. The committee noted that vital clinical services are lacking in this hospital, especially the absence of basic birthing facility is concerning. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the committee's observation and assessment on PMGH. PMGH is a level 6 hospital in the country, providing specialized healthcare. However, with the decline and unavailability of primary and secondary healthcare in NCD, Central Province and Gulf Province, PMGH cannot fully function as level 6 hospital. Services at the urban clinics are suboptimal, unlike inpatient facilities, and hence the bulk of city's population and Central Province are forced to seek all categories of health services at PMGH. The demand for mortuary services has increased with the increasing population. The PMGH mortuary does not only accommodate inpatient deaths, but also provides storage of bodies from deaths outside of Port Moresby Hospital. The committee considers that death outside of PMGH is the responsibility of the City Council. Mr. Assistant Speaker, Port Moresby General Hospital is now the level 6 National Specialist Referral Teaching and Research Hospital under the National Health Plan 2021 to 2030. PMGH is expected to provide specialized healthcare services in heart, kidney, gastroenterology, cancer, advanced critical care, maternal and neonatal services, etc. So our people or citizens do not have to travel overseas to seek those highly specialized services. Mr. Speaker, the current Public Hospital Act of 1994, which PMGH is operating under, does not enable PMGH to deliver the expectations. The specialist hospital bill needs to be enacted. Medical professionals are expensive to hire and maintain. Therefore, the public service salary structure needs to be reviewed to accommodate for the recruitment overseas and also to retain specialized Papua New Guineans. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the committee noted that focus now be made on the 3 district hospitals in NCD as an immediate action for the next 2 years. Based on the utilization of the 3 level 4 district hospitals and the existing urban clinics in NCD, an assessment can then be made to determine the appropriate design for the level 5 NCD hospital. So, Mr. Assistant Speaker, we are stressing on a district hospital rather than a level 5 NCD hospital in this report. Mr. Speaker, the committee is convinced, after seeing the established referral pathways between the urban clinics and the Goroka Hospital in Eastern Highlands Province, and also considering the financial and the operational aspects of level 5 hospital constructions, recommends for the construction of level 4 district hospital and improved role delineation and referral pathways to PMGH. NCD level 5 health facility can be considered in the medium and long-term planning. Comol Petroleum National Heart Center. Mr. Assistant Speaker, consistent with the national government priority of addressing the emerging lifestyle diseases related to the heart and cancer, the government of PNG allocated 25.5 million kina to PMGH in 2018 and 2019 through the Public Investment Program Fund to develop a comprehensive heart and cancer Center. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the committee noticed the MOA signed between the PMGH and Comol Petroleum Holdings Limited signed on August 19 for 2020 for a funding support of 50 million kina for a period of 5 years or 10 million kina annually to allow the project to continue. The cardiac outpatient was fully upgraded and completed and is equipped with General Electric's cardiac equipment. The facility has since served 2,000 patients. The committee noted a submission made to DPM, which is yet to be approved for the human resources structure for the cardiology unit. The committee noted funding of support for 50 million kina received from KPHL and 12 million kina funding from PIP for the year 2022 for the Heart Center. Between 2021 and 2022, the cath lab took a total of 703 cases. Mr. Speaker, in 2022, the cardiac outpatient received a diagnosed over 1,600 patients, mostly between the ages 1 and 11 years old and young adults between ages of 21 and 31. The committee noted PMGH working towards establishing a standardized or standalone national heart center. With regard to cancer facility, the Assistant Speaker, the committee noted Governor PNG's initial allocation of 15.5 million kina to PMGH in 2018-2019 through the PIP program to develop a comprehensive cancer center. Planned cancer center will be a dedicated healthcare facility that offers specialized cancer services designed to international standards to offer affordable specialized cancer services to all Papua New Guineans and to reduce the need for people to travel overseas. Mr. Acting Speaker, or Assistant Speaker, the only cobalt 60 cancer facility therapy at Enga Hospital for our people of PNG ceased operating 4 years ago. WHO guidelines recommend at least one external beam therapy per million population. The committee notes that the incidence of cancer in PNG is fully documented and believed to be grossly underestimated. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the committee notes that delay in signing of Phase 3 contract, which may inevitably defer completions of the project. The committee noted that the recruitment of 2 oncologists, 2 medical physicists, a radiation therapist, trained nurses undergoing concurrent training with facility construction. Mr. Assistant Speaker, as we approach our 50th anniversary, the committee is of the view that having a fully equipped and functional world-class cardiac operations theater complex connected to cath lab and fully completed cancer facility at PMGH will be considered the greatest gift to our people. The East Pacific Provincial Health Authority, Mr. Assistant Speaker, East Pacific PHA serves a population of about 400,000. That's according to 2011 census, and covering a total square kilometers of 43,000, making it one of the largest and geographically challenged areas to provide health services. Health services within the districts are delivered through 334 health facilities comprising 1 provincial hospital, 40 health centers, a community health post, and 281 aid posts, of which 250 of them are currently closed due to manpower shortage. The committee is aware that East Pacific PHA is working closely with district development authorities to rebuild or open the 250 aid posts that have been closed, including staff houses. Mr. Speaker, the Boram Hospital is an 80-bed hospital located in Wewak, East Pacific Province. It was officially opened on 27th of March this year by our Prime Minister. The hospital was built at a cost of 210 million kina by VAMED, a global provider for hospitals and other facilities in the healthcare sector. Mr. Speaker, at this juncture, I acknowledge the work that has been done by the former CEO, the late Mr. Mark Maladu, in this regard. The committee noted the approved structure of 526 and vacancies of 270. Mabrik Level 4 District Hospital. Mr. Assistant Speaker, Mabrik District Hospital is centrally located to serve other districts. The committee noted with concern the lack of progress on Mabrik District Hospital building project that has remained incomplete for the last 7 years. The committee acknowledged the funding support from the local member, the Honorable Cable Carpris from the SRP Fund towards this particular project. Level 3 Ambunti Health Center. Mr. Assistant Speaker, Ambunti Trachea is regarded as the disadvantaged district amongst these 6 districts of East Pacific Province, mainly due to its geographical setting and high transportation costs. Despite these challenges, the district hosts the first ever Level 3 fully furnished health facility in the country. The committee commended the Rural Primary Health Services Delivery Project under ADB for this important project in one of our most remote communities. ADB for this this is a success story that must continue as the way forward in improving primary health care and making quality health care accessible and affordable to our rural communities. This facility brings hope and confidence to our people. The committee noted that the recruitment of a medical officer, radiology, laboratory and dental and pharmacy technicians, resident medical officers, training nurses and HCOs who are currently attached at the Ambunti Health Center because of this improved facility. This is the way that we can bring in the specialist team to our rural communities when we have improved infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, the committee recommended for the immediate commissioning of this facility for it to be fully operational to serve our people. We acknowledge the support from the local member, the Honourable Johnson Wapunai, and the beautiful people of Ambunti Trekiki and those living along the Sipik River for their support to this important project. The committee noted that this Sipik PHA has established a service partnership agreement with the Catholic Church to manage the facility. Sorry, that's supposed to mean, Mr. Assistant Speaker, I'm talking about Hulia Aid Post. Hulia Aid Post, that's in Yanguru South District. The committee noted that Civic PHA has established a service partnership agreement with Catholic Church to manage this important facility, and the committee encouraged such partnership to be done or to be made within many other our PHAs. Naramko Community Health Post, Level 12 facility, that's in Mabrik District, is one of the 4 successfully completed community health posts under the Rural Primary Health Infrastructure Project by ADB. The committee noted that the manpower needs with the SBIC PHA structure that has been approved by DPM and recommend for advertisement and for recruitment. Eastern Islands PHA, Eastern Islands Provincial Health Authority. Mr. President Speaker, the committee noted that there is no PHA board for the past 6 months at the Eastern Islands PHA. They have a population of more than 579,000 and constitutes 6 districts. The committee noted that the rehabilitation of Goroga Hospital that was funded through PIP and successfully constructed and completed by VAMED. The committee noted that Eastern Highlands PHA has a ceiling of 1,021 positions after complete implementing the proposed structure, which was approved by DPM in 2020. However, staff on strength is 702. I announced, Mr. Acting Speaker, that the request for the advertisement of 317 were approved by DPM in June when this report was written. The Goroga Hospital. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the committee noted poor waste disposal pathway and recommend for this to be improved as a matter of priority. It was noted that the incinerator brought by Department of Health for 2 years ago is still awaiting installation. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the committee had that some doctors and health workers who were unsuccessful in 2022 national general elections remain unemployed to date due to the amendment made to Section 55 of the Public Service Management Act. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the Lopi and the Goroga North Urban Clinics. The committee was impressed with the referral system implemented by these 2 town clinics, where they exist as the first point of contact for any case needing referral to Goroga Emergency Department. The committee noted that this is one critical arrangement lacking in NCD and the surrounding Central and Gulf provinces, resulting in continuous overcrowding of PMGH Emergency Department. National Department of Health. Mr. Speaker, the committee requested information from Department of Health on the 3rd February 2023, the regulations for the Provincial Health Authority Act of 2007, PHA status and their performances, facilities accreditation for all facilities in the country and timeline to implement the standalone medical university. Mr. Speaker, the committee acknowledged receiving the accreditation report for Gary Hospital from Secretary However, there has been poor response from the Secretary on other requests. The committee noted that only 7 PHAs are in place out of the 21 PHs in the country and strongly recommend for immediate establishment with no further delays for good governance. Mr. Speaker, the request letter dated 6th April requesting the technical advisor, health standards and health facilities manager to accompany the committee to East Pacific Province to inspect the health facilities that were ignored with no feedback from the Department of Health. The committee is quite concerned and recommends the Department of Health Secretary adhere to our instructions. Recommendations. Based on these visits, Mr. Assistant Speaker, made by committee, interviews conducted, consultations, research, the committee present the following recommendations to the Parliament. Firstly, the National Capital District PHA. One, that the National Capital District Provincial Health Authority to undertake immediate facility accreditation for Gary Hospital and all health facilities in NCD from level 1 to level 4. 2, that the NCD PHA board, in line with the section 28(2) of the Provincial Health Authority Act of 2007, submit to the Minister and the Governor of NCD the annual reports for 2022 and a copy of the report be made available to the committee. 3, that the government to establish 3 level 4 district hospitals in North, East, Northwest and South electorates of NCD within 2 years and assess service utilization and referral pathways before construction of a level 5 hospital in NCD. B, Port Moresby General Hospital, that the government of PNG look at introducing the National Specialist Referral Bill to Parliament as soon as practicable. 5, that the government of PNG review the Port Moresby General Hospital salary structure to upgrade salary for its employees. 6, that the National Capital District Commission to assist PMGH by taking over the function of providing mortuary services to people who have died outside of PMGH. 7, that the National Planning and Treasury to approve and release the 78 million kina PIP funding requested in 2023 budget for the support infrastructure that will deliver cardiac, cancer and other specialized services at PMGH. East Pacific PHA. Recommendation continues. Number 8, it is recommended that East Pacific PHA request for manpower to DPM to be approved with funding allocated as a matter of priority. This will enable the operation of the newly completed Boram Specialist Hospital, Amonti Health Center, and the newly completed community health posts. Number 9, that the Department of Health to install an incinerator for the newly constructed Boram Specialist Hospital as a matter of priority. Number 10, that the Department of Health to work in consultation with appropriate stakeholders, commit funding, and complete the Mabrik Level 4 hospital within the next 2 years. This project will complement the increasing economic activities within Mabrik district. Number 11, that the newly constructed Level 3 Amunti Health Center be commissioned immediately without further delays by the Department of Health. Number 12, the Governor of PNG consider subsidizing operational costs for the Good Samaritan Aviation and Mission Aviation Fellowship who are currently providing services to our rural communities in this particular province. Eastern Islands PHA. The recommendation continues. Number 13, that the Department of Health appoint the Eastern Islands Provincial Health Authority Board as soon as possible. Number 14, that the Department of Personnel Management, in liaison with the Department of Finance, funds the approved 317 positions submitted by Eastern Islands PHA, and advertisements of the positions should be made as soon as possible. Number 15, that the Conservation and Environment Protection Authority to liaise with the NDOH, Eastern Islands PHA, and immediately give clearance for the installation and the use of the new incinerator at Goroka Hospital that's been waiting for the last 2 years to be installed. Number 16, that the government to review and revise the Public Service Management Act, Section 55, to allow doctors, health workers, and essential workers to re-enter public service. National Department of Health. The recommendation continues. Number 17, that the Department of Health provide to the Parliament a regulation or complete a regulation for the Provincial Health Authority Act of 2007 that's been taking too long. The Tobacco Control Act of 2015, the Radiation Safety Control Bill of 2019, and by the end of this year. Number 18, that the Department of Health to conduct immediate level 5 facility accreditation for all hospitals in the country to ascertain their level of performance. Number 19, that the Department of Health to conduct immediate facility accreditation for level 1 to level 4, that is the primary healthcare level in our country. 20, that the Department of Health come up with an implementation plan to make medical faculty a standalone university, and the copy be made available to the committee immediately. 21, that all PHA board, in line with Section 28(2) of the Provincial Health Authority Act of 2007, submit to the Minister for Health and the relevant governors of the province's annual reports for 2022, and copies be made available to the committee immediately. Recommendation 22, that the Department of Health provide an update on the performance of all PHAs in the country and a copy of the report to be made available to the committee. 23, that the Department of Health have in place health workforce plan to complement the National Health Plan 2021 to 2030 as a matter of priority. 2024, the Department of Health have a standardized PHA structure based on the requirements of the levels and the role delineation as per the national health standards. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, as access to our primary health care facilities from level 1 to level 4 is essential for achieving universal health coverage, reducing health disparities, and improving health outcomes for individuals and communities. The committee noted that 87% of our people still live in rural areas. This means strengthening the the primary healthcare system, which is the first point of contact for healthcare services, as it focuses on prevention, early detection, and management of common health problems. Mr. Assistant Speaker, after visiting the Level 2 Community Health Post and Level 3 Ambunti Health Center, we have formed our strong views that the infrastructure upgrade for the primary health care, that's Level 1 to Level 4, must be standardized and managed through the Rural Primary Health Service Delivery Project under ADB, who have a successful track record of completing their projects. Mr. Assistant Speaker, on the same token, the Level 5 provincial hospitals and Level 6 super specialist hospital infrastructures under upgrade can be undertaken preferably by a VAMED, who have also proven useful track record for Goroka and recently at Boram hospitals. The committee noted that the biomedical services agreement which they have with the respective PHs for up to 5 years after their commissioning. The committee valued the ongoing partnerships, especially the churches, and in this case, the East Civic, the Good Samaritans, and MAF, who continues to deliver health care to the most remote parts of our country. The visits undertaken to the above facilities and provinces were based on invitations. So, Mr. Assistant Speaker, we acknowledge receiving invitations from members of Parliament to visit the respective PHs, and hence we will ensure similar visits will be undertaken in the near future. The Special Parliamentary Committee is of the strong view that the government gives special considerations to the attached report and support the committee with the recommendations as provided. Mr. Speaker, I move that the report and its recommendations be adopted.
Leader of Government Business.
Mr. Assistant Speaker, I think the good work done by Chairman since it's appointment of some Chairman Blue Health. All committee members blame. A member for Talasia, Mulbaya, member Blue Alatau, Mosby Northwest for making good work. Mr. Assistant Speaker, me asking Mosem Yumi take note of this very important paper. Yumi can move Surukim debate go another time. Thank you.
The question is the motion be agreed to. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. Ayes have it. Minister for Public Service.
Mr. Assistant Speaker, pursuant to statute, I present the final reports relating to the payroll diagnostic review by the Department of Personnel Management. Mr. Acting Speaker, I ask leave of the Parliament to make a statement in connection with the report.
Is the leave granted? Mr. Minister, continue with your report.
Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker. I rise today to deliver a ministerial statement on the critical findings and complementing recommendations of the Human Resource Payroll audit conducted on the integrated human resource payroll system for the government of Papua New Guinea. The purpose of this statement is to inform this Honourable House and the citizens of our country about the outcomes of the audit and the steps taken to address any identified issues. At this juncture, before I proceed to my statement, I'd like to take this opportunity and time to acknowledge the good work and the effort of the Special Parliamentary Committee on Public Service Reform and Service Delivery, headed by the Honourable Governor for Oro, Honourable Gary Jufa and his committee, and for pushing for this the audit report to be completed and presented to the government. Mr. Assistant Speaker, in recent months, the government, in its commitment to accountability and good governance, initiated this independent human resource payroll audit of the integrated human resource payroll system. The audit was carried out by Deloitte Touch Tomatsu, a reputable and experienced auditing agency tasked with assessing the system's effectiveness, efficiency, and compliance with relevant regulations. Mr. Assistant Speaker, Deloitte Tomatsu undertook the review of the Alaska payroll, the integrated human resource payroll system approved by the NEC with the following terms of reference. 1, undertake a review of the current Alaska payroll integrated human resource payroll system to determine whether it is suitable for the government of Papua New Guinea needs and provide other options available in the market to address public sector requirements. 2, to identify the cost of over-expenditure on personal emoluments budget and identify immediate mitigation actions to reduce the over-expenditure. And 3, to assess the effect of the devolved HR decision powers to line agencies to manage specific human resource processes and provide appropriate recommendations for improvement. Mr. Assistant Speaker, before I present the key findings of the audit, I would like to inform the House that the Deloitte audit report has been presented officially to the Prime Minister on 15 June 2023 in the presence of the Chairman of the Special Parliamentary Committee on Public Service Reform and Service Delivery, Honourable Gary Jufa, Minister for Treasury, Honourable Ian Lingstaki, Deputy Chairman Honourable Elias Kapawore, Chief Secretary and Secretaries of Treasury, Finance and Department of Personnel Management. Mr. Assistant Speaker, I intend to take you through 11 key findings, recommendations, and introduce the strategy that the Department of Personnel Management has embarked on to implement the recommendations holistically. Key findings from the Deloitte audit report. The audit team conducted a thorough review of the human resource payroll system and identified 7 key findings. Several key findings, sorry. Mr. Assistant Speaker, 1, on data accuracy, the audit highlighted certain instances of inaccuracies in pay data, such as outdated records, incorrect designations, and duplicate entries, and others as well. These inaccuracies have resulted in occasional errors in payroll processing. 2, internal controls. While the system has some internal controls in place, the audit revealed errors where these controls could be strengthened to improve fraudulent activities and enhance data security. 3. System performance. The audit team observed occasional system performance issues during peak times, leading to delays in payroll processing. 4. Compliance. The audit identified minor non-compliance with certain government payroll policies and procedures. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the following specific findings were highlighted as critical and high risk. 1. Lack of consistent IT audit and lack of implementation of recommendations from previous IT audits. 2. Demarcation of functions. It's a conflict of interest, like one department doing everything, from the system administrator to the control and running payrolls. And this does not include the Department of Personnel Management, it's the Department of Finance. 3. Critical need to upgrade the Alaska payroll and apply an application version unsupported and absolute, the current one that is the Alaska payroll system. 4, I'd like to, 4 and 5 almost the same, but 4 is reads like this. This is an error, Mr. Assistant Speaker. It should read like this: lack of training for HR and IT officer systems for the system users. There's a lack of training for IT users and officers responsible for IT. And 5 states this is lack of automatic calculations on the Alaska payroll. 6, leave records are not updated on the Alaska payroll. 7, large amounts paid every fortnight, example higher than 100,000 kina, are not thoroughly reviewed. 8, there are inconsistent salary grades across public agencies. 9, lack of implementation of disciplinary actions. 10, operational funds for goods and services used to pay personal emoluments. And 11, lack of data validation and data cleansing. The DPM's implementation strategy based on this report, Mr. Assistant Speaker, I assure this Honourable House and the citizens of our country that the government takes these findings seriously. Immediate actions have been undertaken and will continue to be implemented to address the issues raised in the audit report. 1, on data cleansing. A comprehensive data cleansing exercise is currently underway to rectify inaccuracies and ensure that the employee records in the human resource payroll system are up to date and accurate. 2 is to strengthening the internal controls. The government is collaborating with experts in the field to enhance the system's internal controls, ensuring better security and preventing of fraudulent activities. 3, on system upgrade. To address the performance issues, the government has allocated resources to upgrade the HR payroll systems infrastructure and optimize its performance through peak times. And 4, on compliance measures. Measures are being put in place to ensure full compliance with government payroll policies and procedures to maintain transparency and fairness. Mr. Assistant Speaker, key recommendations have emanated from the audit report, and I would like to inform the Honourable House of my department's strategy to implement recommendations in a coordinated and consolidated approach. The Department of Personnel Management has developed an implementation strategy, the Digital HR Transformation Program. This program aims to deliver the outcomes of the audit recommendations. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the Digital HR Transformation Program is partitioned into 4 key components. 1, version upgrade of the current Alaska Integrated HR Payroll System. 2, automation of the general orders, commencing with General Order GO3, which is to do with recruitment, selection, and appointment. We are now going into e-recruitment, or electronic or online recruitment. we're going towards that. And 3, automation of HR business process and workflows commencing with employee leave process. And 4, digital HR reporting for whole of government. Mr. Assistant Speaker, in terms of immediate implementation, I want to inform this Honourable House that this government is now trying to address legacy issues of the past and controlling costs in the public service through the payroll system, and the payroll system is one of them. Hence, the Deloitte audit report must be acknowledged and appreciated. However, it was noted that further assessments were done on the independent audit report and revealed some limitations that the audit report did not cover, and noting the sensitivity of the audit as well. So it's a bit sensitive that we will not we'll deal with it ourselves internally. Mr. Assistant Speaker, it is therefore important to highlight that the National Executive Council has approved the report and the establishment of a ministerial steering committee comprising of myself as chairman and members including Minister for Treasury, Minister for Finance, and Minister for Information, Communication and Technology. The NEC has also approved the Secretariat at the bureaucratic level to be led by the Chief Secretary as chairman, and members to include the secretaries for Personnel Management, Finance, Treasury, and ICT. Mr. Assistant Speaker, an implementation work plan to commence implementation of the findings and recommendations is now set in motion and requires the support of this government to implement this important reform agenda. Mr. Assistant Speaker, I would like to assure the political leaders that the key central agencies and especially my department remains committed to providing a reliable, efficient and transparent human resource payroll system through its strategy. The findings from the audit have shed light on areas that require improvement, and we are diligently and collaboratively working with key stakeholders to implement the necessary changes and improvements. Mr. Assistant Speaker, I would like to extend my gratitude to the audit team, which comprised also the government and government agencies who work with Deloitte for their diligent efforts in conducting this review and presenting the findings. This government will continue to prioritize good governance, transparency, and accountability in its aspects of our administration. I would like to also take this time to thank the government for providing the funding for the audit to be conducted, to the Prime Minister and this government, and also I would like to thank the Speaker and Parliament for appointing the Governor for Oro as the Chairman of the Parliamentary Committee, who is coming to work with his team to support us. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I now comment and present the Deloitte audit report to this Honourable House. Thank you.
Honourable Governor, Oro Province.
I ask that Parliament take note, and I would like to debate this. Thank you very much, Assistant Speaker. I just have a few comments I'd like to add to the report presented here by the good Minister for Department of Personal Management, the Honourable Joe Sungi. But first, I'd like to acknowledge members of the Special Parliamentary Committee that on public sector reforms that worked to ensure that this audit was delivered in a timely manner. It is one of the Marape government's key areas of interest that they attacked with great vigor after taking office in 2019. I acknowledge Peter Ibras, Governor Alan Bird, Governor William Poe, Governor Philip Undialu, Member for Parliament and Member for Pomio, the Honourable Elias Kapawore, Governor Rufina Peter, and prior to that, Governor Robert Agarobe, member for Papua, Warrior, Mr. Marsh Narwek, and the late William Nakin, who was the deputy chair of this particular parliamentary committee. I also want to thank the executive government, Prime Minister, Treasurer, for your explicit effort in ensuring that there was funding for our parliamentary committee. I want to assure the people of Papua New Guinea that this government is funding many parliamentary committees who are functioning as they ought to, delivering the bread and butter work that is supposed to be done by parliaments. Work is not only supposed to be delivered by ministers or governors, but by parliamentary committees and their chairs. And with adequate funding, we are now seeing many of these parliamentary committees starting to deliver as they ought to, as can be evidenced by the number of reports that are being presented here. One which went earlier by the chairman of the Parliamentary Committee on Health. In regards to that, I just want to comment that could the Special Parliamentary Committee on Health please take on board the report tabled by the Public Accounts Committee on Health and ensure that those recommendations are implemented. I believe the good Minister for Health is already making an effort, but I feel that he needs assistance. The National Department of Health are too slow in implementing those recommendations. They've been there for almost how many years, and I think they've gone through only about less than 5% of the recommendations. Many of the recommendations made have been ignored. In regards to the audit report, first and foremost, it was initiated in 2014 by the O'Neill government. Then nothing happened. Relevant departments, relevant senior public servants did not drive it. They sat on it and twiddled their thumbs and wasted the time of the government of that day and indeed the people of Papua New Guinea. Meanwhile, we were seeing a significant chunk of our budget going to pay out a bloated public sector payroll. And the audit revealed some very interesting findings. For instance, the fact that the payroll system, the ALESCO payroll system, was outdated. That ALESCO payroll system is the ALESCO payroll system of 2012, I believe. We never bothered to update it. And that is one of the reasons why we have this blowout. We also found that there are far too many government agencies that are duplicating the work of one another, getting significant funds from government, but doing very little to nothing at times. There was a 43% increase, for example, in the number of public agencies between 2017 and 2021. And there's an issue with the inconsistent application of HDA across agencies and policy challenges. Operational funds, including miscellaneous funds, are used to pay public sector employees. Unaddressed payroll data and system issues combined with outdated HR policies and GOs. These are just some of the issues that affected our payroll that were not attended to since 2014, when it was decided that there should be an audit to find out what is happening so that we have such a significant blowout for our public sector payroll. But now I'm glad to say that the Minister and his team are starting to take charge of this. In fact, when the report was delivered, it was less than a week before I believe they took this to NEC, and the NEC approved the establishment of a ministerial committee to be supported by a technical committee. And I'd like to encourage the Minister to ensure that on that technical committee they include our technical staff from the Special Parliamentary Committee so that we may monitor and ensure that those 74 recommendations that are carried out in this report by Deloitte are implemented. And when they are implemented, they will ensure significant savings for Papua New Guinea. But not only that, they will ensure that we modernize our payroll system. And what then should happen is that we should look at reviewing our general orders and the Public Service Management Act, an outdated, cumbersome document, law. And if we did that, then what we need to then do is hold executives to account. Across the board in many government agencies, executives are simply not managing. There's no order, there's no discipline. That's what's happening in many of our government entities.
And a lot of bad actors are either allowed to remain where they are or they are even promoted. And they carry these bad habits with them. I mean, if we're running a country, it's serious business. We need the best. We need order, discipline, structure, good management skills. I would like to encourage all ministers to carry out a diagnostic of your various departments, the departments that come under you. Just as a doctor would review a patient to see what's wrong with the patient and then make recommendations in regards to the appropriate type of treatment, you need to do the same. You are a doctor for your government departments that are under you or state agencies that report to you. Carry out these reviews. Find out what's happening in those organizations. How can you improve? Not just government departments, but also provinces. Yes, you're right, Minister. I heard you. And we're leading the way in our province. We already have a restructure approved by your department. I can't wait to implement it. Having said that, I do wish to thank the Department of Personnel Management staff who have been working very hard. In fact, they've already started to take the recommendations and implement some of that, so Minister, your staff can be commended for that. Oftentimes we criticize public servants, but there are those who are also working hard. What we need to do as a government is identify those who work hard, those who are patriotic, those who are nationalistic, innovative, and protect them. Meanwhile, we also identify the bad apples, the bad actors, the guys who are using the system to steal and rot, and we need to remove them. Because if we keep them there, they're going to infect the rest. And that's what's happening, unfortunately. I would like to recommend that we put a ban on creating any more new government agencies. We put a ban on this immediately. Put a ban on creating any more new government agencies. Then what we need to do, and we recommend this, is that we conduct a review of the existing government agencies. And those that we can merge with others, we should do so. Those we should abolish, we should do so. And we should not be afraid to do this. Thank you very much. I will be bringing our report in the next Parliament session, which will detail a roadmap based on our research as to what ought to be done so that we can take Papua New Guinea from where it is now to where we want to go and how to get there. Working with numerous development partners and the executive government's support. We feel that this can be done, and there are brighter days for Papua New Guinea. When this is done, we can then be able to implement the vision of all the elected leaders who are here representing the people of Papua New Guinea. Thank you very much.
Member for Abau.
Thank you, Assistant Speaker. I would want to debate on the two papers that have been presented, if that is allowed, and begin with the current one and commend the Minister for Public Service and the Chairman of the Special Parliamentary Committee on Public Sector Reform for progressing this very important issue on how do we rearrange this important arm of government, public service, in our country. Whilst the focus of the report as intended is to look at the payroll system, I think the real issues have been just concluded by the chairman of the Public Sector Reform Parliamentary Committee. And I strongly support the policy position that he has recommended, that we must now stop creating new agencies of state, new governments, not only departments, but also statutory bodies. Because, I mean, the glaring thing is the payroll consumes 50% of our budget. That means we don't have enough to run the country. Many roads are falling apart. Medical drugs are not enough money to buy because everything is up in the salaries and the inefficiencies which the chairman has been informing the country through his reports. And so, Honorable Prime Minister and Minister for Public Service, I think a statement is due that this report strongly recommends that under our government, no recommendations for new agencies will be approved, that there is a moratorium, that we target, at least the payroll should target 30% of the budget, which is the international standard. When we go beyond that, then the rest of the public service delivery requirements, and our envelopes are limited. You look at LLG needs, wards needs, and DDA chairmen, all of you, PEC, governors are chairpersons. And so I think the message is very, very clear by the Minister for Public Service and Chairman of the Public Sector Reform Parliamentary Committee. Stop increasing agencies. Let's say finish enough. Let's cut it down to 30% target of the budget to go on salaries and wages. That's all. And then we monitor it. Cut down, merge departments, remove some of them. They don't function. There's no purpose, outdated. List them, Minister for Public Service, and Rausimol, and allow them to go into SME, get their retirement benefits, and opportunities are coming. Economy will boom. You don't have to worry about your fortnight pay in the public service. You move into business, make money. Papua gas is coming, Wafi Golpu is opening up, and others are opening up. Agriculture sector is going to move. Fisheries is going to move. Forestry. Opportunities are enormous. Don't just focus on government payroll. It's too much. We can't afford it. So we have to say enough now. My second point, one of the 5 issues that was reported that beefs up this salary budget to 50% is inclusion of the ABG payroll. I strongly recommend that the Minister for Public Service here in our government and Minister for Public Service in the autonomous region of Bougainville government to review the structure of the public service in ABG. I think it's overdone, too many positions, too many high positions in this region which we can't afford to sustain. So go and do an audit and recommend to ABG to cut that down. Salaries are too high. That will bring us down towards 30% of the budget. When I was secretary, they used to give us, I think the form name was Form 11, Form 8. So we were filling in the exact names of those who are on the payroll, both on the wages and salaries. And we were given a ceiling. You couldn't go beyond that because the budget cap was made. And so when we went over it, the Secretary for Treasury would never accept our budget. I think the second issue of the 5 issues highlighted, increased government and agency level budgets. There is a lot of misbehavior of departmental heads in submitting that Form 8. Filling in that form on item 111 and the wages component for all the casuals. So that's where control has to be. And so departmental heads must be held accountable. the budget planning phase must be fully utilized from April to October, and then it comes to cabinet and November budget. That is not fully utilized, and therefore assessments are not made properly. So I have personally experienced plenty, only know talking truth law, submission law, budget law, salaries and wages. Last point, and I go to the chairman for health committee, if I can be allowed to move to the other one. Assistant Speaker, the issue of casuals. Casuals are only 6 months, 12 months.
Point of order, Governor, for Morobe.
Order is that you have not made a ruling. When the honourable member for Apau had asked whether he could debate on other papers which came past, including the paper in question that he's debating on, you have not made a ruling whether he could be allowed to debate on the matters which came ahead of this paper. And the leader of the government business had moved, which Parliament had accepted, that the debate on those papers should be adjourned to a later date. And that's a clear decision of the Parliament now. So can you just make a ruling, Mr. Assistant Speaker?
Yeah.
It's not like debate now, you.
Thank you, Governor, for Morobe. Your point of order is in order. Member for Abau, I will not allow you to proceed with the committee's report from the chairman from the Health Special Committee. I will not allow you to continue with the Health. You can debate later when it's up,
yeah,
but you can proceed with the debate on the public service.
Yeah, I've got 12 minutes left, but I'll do it in 1 minute and I'll sit down. But give me the balance in the next debate for health. Thank you. My last point was on the casuals, the wages component of the wages bill. The salaries belong to the item 111, which is the actual public servants, but the wages bill is also includes the casuals and big numbers of casuals. And they are there for 6 months, they go to 12 months, and Turangu, no assessment is made, they're still in casual forever, and so the opportunities that you will go to move upwards in your salary, in your career path, is not given and denied to this group of citizens. Some of them are new graduates. I know stories of some who have been appointed casuals and on wages and with no other opportunities for 6 months, and the immediate supervisor has not done an assessment of the performance, and therefore that poor officer is still sitting there, and 12 months, 2 years down the line, still on the same salary. And in my view, that's very unfair on a Papua New Guinean. Every opportunity must be given for their dreams to be achieved. And the institutional processes of employing casuals and progressing their dreams towards a career must be guarded by those who are in charge, for example, departmental heads or managers of HR in all the governments in the country. But, Assistant Speaker, I couldn't emphasize more. Let's target our budget to be 30% below the international standard. Let's start trimming and cutting down agencies of state that we find are no more relevant in the country, and let us stop bringing in requests for new agencies, both public service and statutory. Thank you, Assistant Speaker.
Minister for Petroleum.
Thank you, Assistant Speaker. I just want to make one short comment on the payroll report, which is very comprehensive and something that we've needed in a long time. So hopefully those who are responsible for its implementation will read it carefully and implement all the important recommendations in this report. My point is about district casual wages. Mr. Speaker, that's an emerging area which has not been carefully provided for as we set up the District Development Authority, give them statutory powers, and give them very significant national budget. This system has allowed, despite what other people will say, for goods and services at the government, national, central government level to roll down right down to the districts and the LLGs. So going forward, we need to continue to strengthen this system. And if one of it is to make sure that the workers we have there are properly paid. The people on the permanent public servants that are these days allocated to the district are basic. They're not enough. The numbers are small. So, Mr. Assistant Speaker, what we've been doing is to employ casuals to fill in the gaps and to make sure that things are rolled out smoothly. But we don't have a payroll system for them. And, Mr. Assistant Speaker, this has been admittedly one of my biggest frustrations in the now 11 years I've been on the floor of this Parliament. I tried to get my district, get our provincial government to help to set up a fortnightly electronic payroll system for my casual workers in my district, in education, in health, in law and order, in these normal places. And for a while we were putting even councillors and village court magistrates and peace mediators on the payroll. We could not do that because for some reason the Bank of South Pacific and our public servants at the provincial headquarters in Kundiawa and my district staff could not set up this electronic payment system where money is transferred from our district operating account directly to our many casual workers in all the rural areas. And it creates massive problems for us. Massive problems for us. For 10 years I've been asking and talking about this. And it's been hard. And it still remains an issue because we don't have that system. What we do in the interim, Mr. Speaker, for the last 10 years, we pay them a lump sum. We do our district budget and we give them one payment of 6,000, 7,000, 8,000, whatever their salary in one lump sum. They get it, they use it up in about 2 weeks or something, and it's game over for them. And for the rest of the year, 50 weeks of the 52 weeks, we expect them to work without a regular wage and an income and tea and coffee and tin fish and rice and soap on the table for the family. It's grossly unfair, Mr. Speaker. By any measure, it's extremely unfair. It's a government responsibility. As part of this reform and review, my one and only recommendation is, please can the Department of Finance, can the Public Service Commission, can the Department of Personnel Management look into this issue and make sure that all the districts in Papua New Guinea, the casuals under our payroll, at the district level and at the LLG level, are enabled to be placed on our electronic payroll system. There's automatic salary transfer every fortnight, like every company does, like all permanent public servants in Waigani do under this famous Alesco system, etc. Why don't we do it for our casual staff in our districts, our village court magistrates, our councillors, for those who, some of us who we have been paying? We need to put them on this automatic salary transfer, electronically done fortnight by fortnight, so that mothers and fathers are able to feed their families while they work for us, the government. So it's nothing difficult. Little companies do it. With 5 or 6 or 10 employees, they do it. We districts do employ a lot of casuals, and you multiply it by the 89 or so districts in Papua New Guinea, it adds up. We need a formalized system that's designed out of Waigani and implemented on a standardized basis right throughout Papua New Guinea. So right now, you know, BSP is asking questions for 10 years now. My department, my district, and my province confused for 10 years now, and the people are suffering. So that's my ask, that in this wash-up, look at an electronic payroll system for the casual workers in the district, because they deserve it like everybody on the central government payroll. Thank you.
Governor of Southern Highlands.
Thank you, Assistant Speaker. Me like contribute some blah, ting lo this blah. By none of kisim long time, but me like commend him. Public Service Minister long this blah, two blah reports on the importance of building the future of this country. In my view, that hinges on the public service system and institutions we create. People, members of parliament, leaders will come and go, but where is the future of this country 50 years down the line, 100 years down the line? Who is going to hold this? The institution of government we build today, the public service system we build today, is going to hold the breadth and length of this country. You and I will come and go. The future rests on the kind of institution, the public service machinery we build today. I think this has been much talked about, the importance of governments come and go, kind policy, good law policy, non-good policy, but who does the implementation? Make it work at the districts, at the wards, at the provinces, and in the national government. It's the public service machinery. In my view, this is one of the most important system of government and operations of government and culture of government that any governments now and in the future should build a dynamic, robust public service system with institutions that will hold and craft the destiny of this future of the country. I mean, if I can be corrected on this, but you can talk policy implementation, long kind government, but public service system is convoluted, congested, no well thought out, worked out and well-defined policy gets implemented. Because people are member of parliament, you know, so go implementing policy and system. And if the system is convoluted, it's distorted, and it's not in the right place, no policy will get implemented. That's the challenge for the nation, in my view. Long Australia now, some long England now, go long New Zealand. Minister talk. Secretary by automatically realign him one time government agency. When the public media and minister is interviewed, for example, I mean, it's very clear. When the Prime Minister makes a statement, the system picks up. That's another public service. But in PNG, ministers, if you give announcement, you go come now. Nothing seems to be responding. So my view, my colleague, the former administrator for West Civic, you are in the hot seat. You have a big challenge to set the broader public service system and machinery of this country so that we arrive at that destination. The future of the country hinges on this, in my view. CSCC leadership. Prime Minister should not go and look for secretary for this department and deputy secretary and all this. What is that? The ministers should take the leadership on this. CSCC should take the leadership on this. Government priority. And public service and big plus something here. LLG plan Kamlo Waigani. DDA plans Kamlo Waigani. DDA budget Kamlo Waigani. LLG budget Kamlo Waigani. Southern provincial government, when the Mulgaran government budget Kamlo Waigani. What are we doing? We're running service delivery or we are running around in circles? What is the nature of the country? Fix the institutions of government and set the realignment properly in law. Let the CSSC leadership right. Don't let Waigani be a swamp. Take leadership. So in the public service system, you're not going to play long. You governor now, you minister now, you prime minister now, you one minister. You will come and go. Where is the future of the country? Where is the future of the country? The system that we build today will hold the breadth and length of this country. I think you may not going to play this play. We need to support the public service minister. And the public service minister, you are operating a huge memo task, convoluted with conflicting legislations. Karem approval go come all over the place. We are running around in circles. Lord, this report you provide him now. Me ask him, through you, Assistant Speaker, Public Service Minister, kiss him 5 provincial administration. Kiss him education, health, police. Kiss him staff on strength under their structure. And what are the total, payroll remuneration packages lo display? Against the staff on structure, you can save the wages, the wastages. MEC plus something, you don't need a rocket science. Start with 5 of them in the provincial administration. Like in my case, you can come start long. Staff on structure belong on strength plus San provincial administration. Is it consistent with your ceiling that you give approval for? Ceiling, you can control all staff on structure through the ceiling. Manpower requirement belong all government departments, provincial administration. That's the tool. Now, how me work him? You give him heads up, power come back to province. But the control mechanism through the ceiling, approval by me come kisim lo yuya. Don't do everything in Waigani. Approval lo LLG come lo Waigani. Approval lo DDA come lo Waigani. Approval lo provincial budget to come lo Waigani. How are we doing in terms of service delivery and governance? It's a leadership right. Put the institutions together. Let's not be convoluted with all kinds of directions. Walk straight. The future of this country does not rely on us, members of parliament. It relies on the system of government, public service system, machinery we built for this country. Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker.
The question be put. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. Ayes have it. Leader of Government Business.
Mr. Assistant Speaker, take it through law. Got a good debate in the paper. Mila asking Musimi, the in Parliament go tomorrow 10 a.m. Thank you.
The motion is that the question is that the motion be agreed to. Those who say aye. Those who say against say no. Ayes have it. I now adjourn the Parliament to 10 a.m. tomorrow morning.